Overflows.
Meditation, the living relationship with existence. Meditation is the living relationship with existence. This is a question from one of the seeker who, because of her trust, openness and sincerity, is evolving beautifully. The author of the series of the books Life, Love and Light, Light Unto Myself, Life of Bliss Beyond Duality and Others, Nivedita, told me this week she feels intuitively that meditation is like living relationship with existence. She is very clear about it. She understands this but cannot explain to anyone. She wanted me to explain. She further mentioned this will help the Western mind to understand the practical aspect of meditation and spirituality. She is absolutely right. Indeed, meditation is like living relationship with existence. The reason is we do not understand what is meditation, how to relate, and what is existence. We only know relationship, not the way to relate. We live like an island. How to relate is more important than what is relationship. You have to understand a few things before you can understand the intuitive statement, meditation is living relationship with existence. First, what is meditation? Second, what is existence? Third, how to relate. Only then you can easily connect both and live life of harmony and oneness both within and without. Meditation is both an art and science. Once you understand its nature, technique is needed to operate in the world of objects and beings, how to connect, how to communicate, connect to who, communicate with who. You start with how to communicate. Then you will move how to commune with. The journey begins with how to commune with yourself. We are taught how to communicate with others, not how to communicate with oneself. Communicating with oneself is sadhana, austerity, technique. This requires understanding various layers of your being. Being is the innermost layer or core. This remains covered with so many superficial layers, physical layers, emotional layers, and energy layers. Physical or physiological layer is the outermost layer. This is physical or physiological. This is the grossest layer. Your existential bioenergy or sexuality is the outermost layer. It is gross. Everyone wants sex but knows nothing of its what and how. It has taken for granted and no one needs to learn. At deepest core, sex is the language to communicate with the physiological layer. You may be shocked when I say sex is the language of communication with the energy that flows at this gross layer. Yes, indeed, sex is the language of communion with the body. Human body is like a river that flows. At gross layer, the body has its moods as it rivers. We do not understand its moods. This is the first communication channel and the obstruction. First understand the problem, only then technique will be useful to overcome. The second is emotional or psychological layers, ego, egocentric identities, and conditionings all are like unseen boundaries or blockages. We do not see these, but these remain operative and affect us psychologically. Since these remain invisible, it becomes even more difficult to remove these blockages. A different technique will be needed for this. The last or the third layer is the energy layer. This is the subtlest layer. Once the first two are cleared, various energy streams begin to flow naturally. The last layer becomes easy. Once you have learned to communicate with yourself, you move forward. Communication with oneself is primary. You have understood your biology, psychology, and energy layers, and with this, communication really begins. Life has two dimensions, inner and outer. So far, you have tried to understand the inner dimension. All that you see outside, sentient and insentient, constitute the outer dimension. Know this as existence. It is totality. Existence is dualistic. You are to communicate with objects and beings. Language differs. We live in this world of duality. This requires another type of understanding. Remember, we are not aliens, nor as strangers joined. We are bound to each other by a causeless force. There is a power within that knows beyond our knowings. This implies harmony and oneness. Each individual lives as an island separate from the other. Ishopanishad begins with Ishavasyamidam sarvam yat kinch jagatyam jagat ten takten bhunjitha ma gradha kashya suvidhanam. This is the first verse of Ishopanishad. It is a key that is in Sanatan Sanskriti. This is the key text. The verse emphasizes that the universe and everything within it is owned and controlled by the Supreme Being. One who is connecting must understand what he is communicating. Does he has anything to communicate? The verse essentially states that everything in the universe, both animate and inanimate, is not separate from the Supreme Being. Just as different waves that arise on the surface of the ocean are not separate from the ocean, being both everything is part of the Supreme Being, but is a part of a larger interconnected whole. This concept of unity, harmony, and oneness is central to the philosophy of Upanishads and the way to communicate. All this is enveloped by the Supreme Being. The word envelope has to be understood in its proper connotation. This Upanishad discourses the presence of the divine in man and in nature, and it tells us the very truth of the spiritual character of the universe. We are all embedded. It goes on to tell us how our lives it goes on to tell how we live our lives to the fullest, how we can live our lives to the fullest for a long and enjoyable life. It details how to see and understand attachment and detachment and rewards and consequences each brings to us. This deeper understanding that dawns from within as a consequence of communion with an awakened one continues to describe quite poignantly the nature of the being or Atman or innerness and the fruits of realization of the true self. I repeat it, this deeper understanding that dawns from within as a consequence of communion with an awakened one continues to describe quite poignantly the nature of the Atman, being, innerness, and the fruits of realization of the true self. It also warns that those who do not live up to their true and divine potential essentially kill the vast potential of the soul. They waste away their lives. It tells us that the self is one, that it is unmoving yet faster than the mind, so moving faster. It is beyond the reach of the senses and suggests that because the true self is above and beyond the senses, it takes a spiritual realization to truly identify with this higher presence of the true self in us. Deep understanding or awakening tells us about hate and makes us ask the question of ourselves, that since we are part of everything else and everything else is part of me, then how can I foster hate? And when I do, who is this hate for? Deep understanding explicitly describes the nature of the being as holy and pure, without faults or anything physical. As Jesus also said, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Once you understand this, you can live in this world of objects and beings, but the world will not be within you. You can live another duality. You can live among dualities, but deep within there will be harmony and oneness. Then out of you will radiate light of the being, and you will be able to communicate. You know that which is worth communicating is bliss, oneness, harmony, light, awakening, and this you have experienced within. So this will be the thing that you can communicate or share with the people around.